Welcome, trolls. First sees all.
Hi everyone, bear with me. Thanks to all new subscribers who just arrived. I'm no genius. So when I find out things, I have to try to explain them to you in the way that I know how to express myself to you. So sometimes if I'm talking about my work and sometimes it's not clear, it's unclear and you don't understand, well, forgive me. We're going to talk about a very important person for me in my life, Bob Lazar. He did not necessarily work at Area 51. We're going to be accurate. It's Area S4, which is 15 miles south of Area 51, but it's within the Area 51 compound. It's a subset of Area 51, as Bob Lazar explains with his mysterious eyes. Bob Lazar, he was paid by naval intelligence. We know that much. Just a little briefing about him before I get into why I want to talk about him and my research. He assumes they are the ones in charge, naval intelligence. Bob, he was a witness at one point of some subcomponents of a craft with a new lab partner that appeared at one point named Barry. They were witness to a demonstration of the reactor working, which is the reactor inside of the crafts, which were behind the hangar doors. Bob says it was a technology that did not exist. That's how advanced it was. This from a scientist. Bob Lazar had majestic clearance. We're going to talk about the clearance that he had. It's said to be, in his own words, 38 levels above Q clearance. Q clearance being the civilian top secret clearance. So now let's get right into it. Why I want to talk about the reactor inside of the craft and why I want to compare it to my work. People tell me, Bruce, you can't see UFOs. You won't be able to show them to us. Yes and no. Because when I'm showing you a UFO, I'm not necessarily ever showing you the craft. But like right now, you're witnessing the reaction from the craft, which is a radiation emission, creating and clashing with the gas around the ship, thus causing light. Because these emit photons also. And I'll get into that. And it's not just bullcrap. You'll see it's interesting. I'll get right into the interesting point. We're going to talk about the reactor itself, what is propelling these crafts. And again, said to be from the Zeta Reticuli star system. It's a binary star system. It's said that there's a planet in that vicinity of the binary star system, and that would be where they are coming from. But we're just going to leave it at that. I'm just telling you what Bob said. Right, let's get into it. A hemisphere the size of a basketball on a metal plate. That's what they witnessed. We're going back to the demonstration. It produced a gravitational field of its own. Right. So Bob Lazar's job, like if you would touch the reactor, you wouldn't make it there. Like it'll push you away. So Bob's job was to back engineer that reactor and to reproduce the same device with either the same, earthbound materials, if you want, and elements. But now we're going to talk about inside of what's propelling these crafts and the reactor itself inside of the craft. And again, based on Bob's testimony. Element 115, which Bob was the first that talked about it, and now on the periodic timetable. The nucleus of the atom is stable. So that's important to talk about. Not without getting into chemistry or science too much, they call it the island of stability. At one point, the elements arrive at a point where the nucleus and the atoms react and last a long time, and that they're stable instead of burning themselves out, right? Without being a genius, in my own words. But basically, the crafts have gravity amplifiers, right, inside the crafts, plus gravity emitters, which look like garbage cans, he specifies, on pipes. Basically, they would turn left and right to guide whichever angle they want to go. And again, at a very fast pace because of the element 115. So, and don't forget the test flights he mentions were on Wednesdays because there was low traffic there. And he was a witness to some of these crafts right there on the compound. So the element 115, we're going to talk about exactly what happens to make these crafts react, and I'm going to explain to you, my friends, why what we are seeing when I show you a UFO is just a glowing ball of light. I could go on and get into spirituality and ghosts with that, because it's a very interesting factor. The way we're seeing them through particle acceleration, getting interesting. So element 115 is placed in the top of the reactor, and the base of the reactor is similar to a cyclotron, a particle reactor, right? A particle accelerator. Well, can't help but wonder, the CERN, that's exactly what they're doing. It's a big underground particle accelerator. Right. So let's get to that cyclotron or particle accelerator, which is much like the one at CERN. A particle is accelerated to high speed, then deflected up a small tube, and it's aimed at the element 115, which is that stable, right, element. So, keeping that in mind, this transmutes the 115, it causing a reaction afterwards, which is a radiation emission, and one that we've never seen before is exactly producing antimatter. This antimatter, this is interesting, is guided down a tube, reacts with a gas. When matter and antimatter react, which is the outside world, they convert to 100% energy. That is very strong. And this energy is converted to electrical power, which they also use for the inside of other subcomponents in the craft itself. Whoa, how interesting is that? There's no wiring in these crafts either. Thus, a gravitational field is formed around the craft, a gravitational wave. It's an antimatter reactor. So we're talking about bending gravity, they bend light, and they bend radio wave. If you apply enough energy to a gas molecule, they emit photons, they emit light. When the craft is emitting off so much energy, the gas around the craft emits light. To see one at night, it's like looking at a glowing ball. And he said also, Bob Lazar, that it also looks like a heart shape that forms around the craft, and it goes to a center, which is the top of the reactor. At one point, you'll see here in my own research where there's always that other object seen beside the craft. And honestly, I believe it's that energy being exerted, that, strong energy. So, whoa. So with all the electrical grounds and fields that are here on Earth, how would that react with a particle accelerator from another planet, right? They'd be able to ground in on us real bloody fast. And also, I guess it's an easy way for a ghost to come visit and spook some haunted castle through the wiring system, right? That's why Bob Lazar says they look jumpy in the sky when you see them, because they're interacting with Earth's gravity force field themselves. They're bouncing left and right, and they're bending space and time to travel. That's another thing we could talk about. When we see these UFO crafts, like here, which is, hey, just absolutely exceptional to see them winding from left to right. In reality, they don't have to try to drive going left and right. They're going in a straight path really fast. And what's being produced, think of it, all this light, the photons, the antimatter, they're literally going down this tube through space and time. And they're bending space and time, right? To get from point A to point B, they can get there in seconds and minutes, what would take us hundreds of thousands of years to travel. And they're able to do that by bending space and time with this technology of this reactor and probably the element 115. Mark Romero Bradley. Bro, I love you so much. Thanks so much, man. Benoît Paquette. Merci, mon frère. Message bien reçu. Crawlface, bro, thank you so much. Go Bruce, go baby. I hope you get your telescope real soon. I can't wait. Love you, brother. From my friend Mark Romero Bradley. Thanks for the ongoing support, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video.